Where's my YouTube button? Here it is. This way I can see the chat.
Okay, we are live.
Okay.
I gotta get in and fix the chat.
Okay.
Do. And I know that it's gonna be slow. Hi, Dolly Green. It's gonna probably be a little slow in here because they're doing the
What's her name? Suitcase lady.
Yeah, Sarah Boone is
That would
testifying
be an
right now.
interesting one to talk about too.
Hi, Tammy McD.
I'm going to turn myself around. I wouldn't let me go. Here we go.
Where is my
Need to
option
work.
to fix my chat?
Can you see me better this way, guys? I mean, if you really think about it, we could try to do a mental health perspective on a lot of these different situations, right, Nana Patty?
Yeah, we could.
I was thinking like we could everybody could put the therapist cap on today and see what everybody thinks of this case. How come I don't see the chat?
I can't fix my chat. I don't know what's going on with it.
What's going on, everyone?
This is very weird.
It is weird. Well, okay, Jules.
I'm gonna have to go into my YouTube account. Let's see.
Okay, I found us. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's an old one.
No, we are live, right? Everybody can hear us. Hey, Carol Clark.
I'm sorry I'm eating, everyone. I didn't have lunch.
Hey, you go
ahead. I
ahead.
had breakfast a long time ago.
Lisa and I have been out running around today. I had an appointment. She had an appointment. She had things to do.
I'm just happy to be here with everyone. I'm happy I made it home in time.
Yeah.
You know, ironically, I didn't even hear about this case.
Yeah.
Until you brought it up to me.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And you know what I was thinking about before we get into it? It almost reminds me a little bit of what was that girl, Sidney Powell?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
I kind of remember her.
Tammy McD, you're right. Everybody calls her the suitcase lady.
Yeah.
It is, though. But Sidney Powell killed her mother. Hey, Jules, sorry. She killed her mother because her mother found out that she wasn't enrolled in school, in college. And and she didn't want her to find out, but her mother found out. And she stabbed her and hit her over the head with a frying pan. When that murder was happening, the school administrators were on the phone. I can't remember how come they were on the phone, if they called Sidney or the mother. They heard the whole thing happening. It was crazy, but this case brought me back to that.
Yeah,
trying to process and understand a daughter that would kill a mother.
yeah,
Um, and what other influences were at play when that happened? You know,
mm-hmm,
because I would say that that's probably a pretty unusual thing, right?
yeah,
Everybody's talking about the suitcase lady.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Well,
she wanted everybody to believe that they were playing hide and seek. Want to know what I learned about that yesterday? I'm jumping around
but
a little bit. I'm waiting until you get situated before we start on this case. But what really was weird to me is I was reading the injuries that George suffered, right?
yeah,
His hands were out of the suitcase, his fingers, and they were all banged up, his fingers.
yeah,
Like he might have been trying to get out and she hit him with something in the hand. Because,
mm-hmm,
like, why else would his hands be so beaten up like that?
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
she was hitting him with a baseball bat.
I know, I saw that. Now,
Mm-hmm,
I found out also that she tried to kill him a few years ago by choking him.
mm-hmm,
I think they might, I'm not positive, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that they arrested both of them when that happened. But I have a theory, and I don't know how many people are going to agree with it, but I have a theory that she really was the primary aggressor.
oh, it's a big possibility.
I really feel that way.
Mm-hmm,
That he got arrested and they got in trouble for, there were times where they both got in trouble for domestic battery, this and that.
mm-hmm.
But I feel like she was the primary aggressor. Now, I could be wrong. I'd like to see. Should I ask everybody what they think
Sure.
before we start on this case? Since
Mm-hmm.
everybody's talking about the suitcase thing.
Yeah.
Well, I know we only have a couple of people here, right? We only have what? How many people are in the chat? But let's put it out there. What do you guys think? Do you think she was the primary aggressor in their relationship? Or do you think it was 50-50? I'm curious to see what people believe. No, Valerie Curto said, who put someone in a suitcase? The whole thing is bizarro. And you know what's weird? After it happened, she called her ex-husband.
Yeah.
And the ex-husband said, he went over there and he said, you should call the police. Here's
Yeah.
the thing. I wonder if she had that same kind of behavior when she was married to the first husband.
I don't know.
Jay McCrae said she keeps saying he wouldn't let her go for medical care. I don't think anyone has ever told her no in her whole life. Somehow I kind of believe that. Oh,
Although
Valerie agreed with me.
it didn't sound like she had the best
Hi, Lucy
life
J.
growing up. Hey,
No.
JC. Hi, Lucy. Hi,
Thanks for
Valerie.
coming, everyone.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you. Glad you got away from the suitcase for a little bit. Came over to
Mm-hmm.
visit with us. I
It is
cannot
strange.
I cannot fix my chat, Lisa, to
She's very, very juvenile. What'd you say? You can't? So what's the matter? You can't see the chat?
I can see chat, but only the top view, the top
Oh,
chat. I
oh,
don't
you know what?
understand.
Not a Patty. How can I tell? Because this says live chat,
You're on the right thing then.
but underneath it, it says top messages.
That's what I'm trying to change.
But the live chat is in bigger letters.
Yeah. I'm trying to change the chat options. and it's not giving me the option to.
That's weird.
I think I'm gonna have to reset my phone. I'm gonna turn my phone off
Okay.
and turn it back on and see if that makes a
Mm-hmm.
difference.
It
I
is a
don't know
very
what
strange case. He
talking
said
about.
they were doing puzzles and they were
Mm-hmm.
and board games and maybe even hopscotch. No, I'm only kidding. And
Well,
then
could have been.
they they decided to play hide and seek, and he ends up in a suitcase. But how did he couldn't have zipped himself in it? Come on, people.
Right. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way.
Mm-hmm.
She zipped him up and she said she did.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow or another, he got a hand out. I heard two different things. He
What did you
got
hear?
fingers out, a couple of fingers out, and then I've heard the whole hand got out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when she was hitting him with the bat to try to make him put his hand back in.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh, Tammy McD said, if I am correct, I believe the ex-husband is a key witness for the prosecution. Wow.
he is.
She reminds me of the TT rug beggars, Lisa and Lori, without the rugs, just her attitude. Which one is that, Dolly?
I don't know which one that is either.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
You know, there's so many weird cases like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, like, is it really on the rise, or are we just hearing more about these things? Because some of these stories of the background story is it's nuts if you really think about it. I mean, why
Mm-hmm.
would anybody ever think that killing somebody is the answer to their problem when they see that
Mm-hmm.
like people that do it get caught, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh my goodness.
there's a lot to unpack in the Carly Gregg story, because the psychological evaluations was such a big part of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's instinctually we try to look for a reason that a child would do that, and what extenuating circumstances there are that would enable or set a kid up to be able to do that. I mean, did everybody see the video of the whole thing of her, you know, with the gun and everything in the kitchen?
No. Oh, are we talking about
Yeah, Carly
Carly?
Gregg. I
Okay.
sort of I'm shifting a little bit now,
Okay.
because mental health is such a big part of this case, because it's not always like that, you know.
Right.
But people are searching for an answer to why a young girl would just in cold blood kill her mother.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. um
No.
and then all the psychological witnesses that they had involved with
Uh-huh.
conflicting opinions, I think made the case very, very complicated. But here's the thing I was thinking about. After the fact, they did a lot of psychiatric testing on her, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were using the information they got on those
Hi,
psychological
Pussycat.
tests to judge her behavior before she committed the crime, right? So, like, okay, so let's say you go to a psychiatrist. That's giving you a snapshot of that person and their functioning at the moment, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they did all these psychological evaluations afterwards. The murder was already committed. And then they want to use the results of those tests to project what was happening before the crime occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody wrap your head around that for a minute, right? because you'll never, now that the murder occurred, you'll never get a purely, like a pure pure results from whatever psychological testing was done, because the murder had already occurred and that was under her belt. It was in the wheelhouse. So if she tested out, with, an adjustment disorder or whatever it is, it's always after the fact. And then they're saying, well, but how did that relate to what happened before that? But your results are based on now. So I think that that's it's an
important
consideration here, because,
yeah. And then
hindsight is always 2020, right?
yeah, and then JC Ray has a good point too about how accurate is a psych eval if the person being evaluated is already on brain chemistry changing drugs.
That's true. That's really, really true. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That testing is only as good as what's happening now and the influence that's happening now. Now, having said that, most of these psychological tests that they use, like I'm talking about paper and pencil ones, like where you would evaluate somebody based on how they answer questions, like say like during like an interview format or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Most of them have safeguards built into those tests so that a person can't really fake it. It would flush out anything that could be falsely, like a false result.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're perfect, but there are these measurement instruments are very sophisticated, and you can get lots of information about truthfulness of responses and things of that nature. So there's two sides to every story, right? Like these instruments that we use to evaluate her, it's after the fact. I would imagine, you're dealing with a kid who was immediately put into jail, right?
Right.
And then she's going on, she's going to go on trial for this. Everything's happening really fast, really fast. And then she gets tested. So now you have a whole other piece there that influenced her life, because we know trauma influences, we know as a fact, trauma really does have a big influence on people's lives, especially a child, right? Now, does it really matter that she created the drama? No, probably not. But I would say if I were going to be involved in that, I would put that at the top of the list. It's a life-changing event.
Right.
So all those results have that little package accompanying them. So I think it's really important to really put that in perspective, right, Nunu? Yeah.
Dogs.
What do you think, Nunu?
My dog started barking the same time your cat said hello.
He wants to eat. Yeah. He wants to eat. So
feed me, Mom.
So that's just a little food for thought. Things that came to my head when I was really trying to think about these things and the meaningfulness of everything. And I thought it was also interesting that they offered her a plea deal and they didn't take it. I didn't realize that in the beginning.
Yeah.
The other factor is that it depends on your belief system too, because there are a lot of people that would feel like there are no extenuating circumstances here. She just, killed her mother. There was no, but then there's other people that believe that every influence in that person's life has to have play some part in what she really did in the end. So, and I guess it just depends on what kind of person has that belief system in the jury, But let's start out with the major issue here, right, in terms of a behavioral health, right, would be they wanted to know, oh, there's your baby. Oh, hello. Hello, baby. Hello, Molly.
Hey, hello.
He's talking to her. Look, I'm talking to Molly and he's answering. I'm talking to Molly, Nunu.
Molly just had to come say hello, everybody.
Let's see what it says over here. Oh, it says, Tammy McD said, to me, it speaks volumes, especially when she still had her biological father in her life. Just kind of a weird relationship in a very uncomfortable way. You know, that's a good point because her father, ooh, you want me to hold you? Okay, come on. Her father, he's an interesting guy because he supposedly was diagnosed with schizophrenia, right?
Right.
But I was listening to some psychologists who took a little bit more of a deep dive into to the situation, and he was saying that he didn't think the dad was properly diagnosed. Now, listen, unless you're really evaluating that person and you don't really know for sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that myself, but then I said, you know what? It doesn't matter what the disorder is called. He obviously had mental health issues. So the other thing I found out was that the mother would say some negative things about dad, the biological dad, and the kid wasn't, she wasn't really that close with him. She really didn't want to be with him. So
her dad, no.
Yeah, so I really wonder like how much she really even saw him. Does anybody know? How long? Kisses for Nunu. Yeah, he's a good boy. He just sticks his butt in the camera all the time, though.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't think she saw her dad very often at all.
Doesn't seem like it, right?
I think mom tried to keep him away, and he wasn't paying any child support, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
And so I think there were several issues that they were able to keep her away from him. They were also trying to find him because he needed to be served court documents regarding custody issues, and they couldn't find him for 2 years.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding. I didn't know that. I also heard recently that they're looking to give her a new trial because her father at the last minute said that she heard voices as a child, and that wasn't admitted into the into evidence that she heard voices. Yeah. Now I'm going to make a comment about voices because there's always, you have to make a distinction between hearing your own voice and hearing voices. There's a big difference because, and I've talked to a lot of kids about that. But I would put it in the framework of what are you telling yourself? What are you telling yourself in your own mind? What is it that because I've treated lots of kids, I'm going to feed them with anxiety.
Are you hearing your own voice talking to you?
Exactly. Because if you really think about it, we all have our own inner voice, right? And kids could get that mixed up. Like if you ask them, do you hear voices? I've had that happen many times with children will take that very literally, but it's their own voice. It's not voices like a creepy voice telling you that you're Jesus Christ or something.
Right.
So
Tammy, I don't think she was seeing her dad. I'm pretty sure the mom was keeping her away from him. Yeah. And the mom was scared of him. That's why she had a gun. The mom had the gun because she was scared of him.
Because she was scared of the ex-husband. That's what I heard. Yeah. So, when you take a deep dive into these things, you got to consider all these factors. But the bottom line is, they wanted it to be not guilty by reason of insanity. So they weren't saying she didn't do it.
Right.
They're saying she did it, but she did it because she wasn't mentally competent at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big difference there. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just gonna feed them something.
That's okay. Go ahead and feed the kitties.
So as soon as I finish putting this in the dish, we'll start taking a deep dive into the whole behavioral health issue and see what I want to see how everybody feels when we lay out everything, like all the different things that was said and the different psychological evaluators and evaluations, and how meaningful is that?
Mm-hmm.
I will say this one thing though. When I watched, because I went on, I took a whole deep dive into the whole thing. I was really underwhelmed with all of the mental health people, like especially like the court appointed.
Oh yeah.
I expected there to be like, people that had more experience than that.
Right. He
Because
had
it's
no
a specific
experience.
area. Right. It's a specific area of expertise, forensics.
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked in forensics, so I don't, I'm not saying I didn't meet kids that had, antisocial behavior and psychopathy and things like that. I'm not saying that, but it's a specialty area.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just kind of thought it would have been, I don't know. I really thought that there would have been more to sink your teeth into than what they said.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think the one that wasn't court appointed did a bang up job.
she was the one who treated her, right?
Yeah, that report was really long.
The blonde?
I can't
What was her
remember.
name? I
No,
think
it
it
was a
was
man. It was a man.
oh yeah, the man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's hard? We have, a diagnostic manual that, mental health professionals use to diagnose, right? And sometimes, I mean, the criteria are so for some of them are so broad and some of them are so specific.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're going almost by like a recipe. Does the child fit the criteria or the adult? And then sometimes I think because of that dependency on that, and that we have to give labels to certain mental illnesses, just like say for court purposes or child custody or some other like specific reason you need it. Sometimes people just get caught in the business of like just seeing if they fit into the criteria diagnostically, but it's not their fault. That's what it's there for. But there's a lot to be said for sort of, getting a feel for the kid, just from your own judgment of interaction. You know what I mean? But so it's not their fault. They're not doing anything wrong. Believe me, I'm not being the least bit critical, but in this case, we had mental health experts that were saying completely opposite things. Completely.
They didn't even halfway agree.
What?
They didn't even halfway agree.
No. But the biggest, for me, the number one factor for my judgment is this dissociation question. Did she?
Will you explain what dissociation means?
I think we're gonna start there. Is that a good idea? Let's start there, because that is really, I think for me, the most important factor. There's other ones too, but for me, that's the by definition of insanity. That's that's a very, very important factor. And I feel like there was a lot of debate over that. So I'm going to read to you, the definition of dissociative behavior, okay?
Okay.
Dissociative disorders are characterized by a disruption and or discontinuity in the normal integration of consciousness, memory, identity, emotion, perception, body representation, motor control, and behavior. Okay? Dissociative symptoms can potentially disrupt every aspect of life and psychological functioning. Okay? So, and then underneath that, it says that dissociative disorders are frequently found in the aftermath of trauma. It's almost like if you have a child who's repeatedly abused repetitively over years and years and years, the brain goes into a state of detachment where you dissociate from your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And did anybody ever, when we grew up, there was a movie called Sybil. Did anybody watch it? Okay, that's a good example of Sybil. She developed multiple personalities by dissociating from her own self. It's thought of as a coping mechanism to help somebody escape trauma.
The reality of trauma.
Right, but there's also a dissociative aspect to mental illness too. Like, you know what I'm saying? But traditionally it was always something that was thought of as something that somebody would do to escape a trauma in their life.
So kind of like a robot mode.
Yeah.
Kind of going along and they check out.
Exactly.
They go somewhere else.
It's sort of like checking out, but like some people would describe it, just the feeling of like they were able to distance themselves from their body and actually feel like they were looking at themselves.
Or looking at the situation from
above.
Right,
but they're not part of it. They're removed from it. I'm going to read this one other section. It says, the core of dissociative identity disorder is the division of identity with recurrent disruption of conscious functioning and a sense of self. The central feature is shared with one form or a form of other specified dissociative disorder, which can be distinguished from dissociative identity disorder by the presence of chronic or recurrent mixed dissociative symptoms that do not meet the earlier criteria in the manual. So what I'm saying to you is, it's, in the old days, like we thought of it as one of the most rarest things to see in a person, that they would dissociate and develop other personalities. I still think that is true. It's not a very common, not a very common disorder. I'm trying to give you information without making it too heavy. Let's see. Oh, here's another thing about it. It also can be associated with amnesia, not remembering. I'm going to read that out loud too. All right. There's a few under this umbrella. Let's dive into it. Okay. Dissociative amnesia, an inability to recall important autobiographical information, usually of a traumatic or stressful nature, that is inconsistent with ordinary just forgetting. Okay. And that these symptoms cause impairment across social, occupational, and other important areas of life. Okay. And this doesn't include dissociative amnesia as a result of taking any substances or drugs. Okay. Now, under that umbrella, there's other ones. Okay, let's see what's here. It says hold on, I lost my spot. Okay. The consequences of having this, because didn't she say she didn't remember what she did? She said she didn't remember, right? That's why I'm kind of going in this direction.
I thought it was more like she remembered it, but she didn't remember. It was like she watched herself.
That's it. Okay, so that's why I'm going into this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The functional consequences of dissociative amnesia. Okay. The impairment of individuals with localized, selective, or systematized dissociative amnesia ranges from limited to severe. Individuals with chronic generalized dissociative amnesia usually have impairment in all aspects of functioning. Even when these individuals relearn aspects of their life history, autobiographical memory remains very impaired. Most become vocationally and interpersonally disabled. I mean, you're talking about the after effects of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that was one of the things that bothered me a little bit about it, because she was saying that she was detached from it. She was watching it happen, but she didn't really do it, and it really reminded me of dissociative amnesia. But then I really thought about it more carefully, and I don't know if we really have a handle on it, but these are things that have lasting side effects. So like, you're not going to just have it like for one occurrence in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually something where like it leaves you more impaired than you were before, like permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was watching the videos on YouTube of her in the courtroom, because that's the only way to judge a person's behavior now after the fact, is because she's just sitting at the table with the attorneys and things like that. Now, you can't judge what condition she's in psychologically right now, well, as she was going through the trial. But on the other hand, nobody was reporting that the child was impaired like that. And I've seen that happen. Certain mental illnesses are like that. They're very, very chronic and debilitating. So, say, for instance, somebody has schizophrenia, right? Anytime they have like a psychotic episode, they don't recover fully to what they were before. It has a lasting effect on them.
That
So,
makes sense.
yeah. So, and this is no exception to that. And I just didn't feel like there was any evidence of that. So if there wasn't any evidence of that carrying over, then how can you say that just for that one short period of time, she was having sort of this out of body experience? Now, if that was the case, would she have been able to do all those things that she did when she, like the purposeful behaviors, right? Like taking the camera and putting it in the refrigerator so that she couldn't be filmed.
But then not realizing that she had other cameras out that were filming her.
What?
And she didn't do anything about the other camera.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a little bit weird too. But at the same time, I would imagine that. Now, here's the thing too. I want to ask everybody. I didn't get a feeling of like adrenaline pumping through her body. Like, it didn't look to me like she was
like
in
she was on speed.
a hypomanic state or even a manic state. She seemed pretty calm. Now, I could be
She didn't
wrong.
look like she didn't look like she was speeding through anything.
No, she didn't look. The only time she got like kind of frantic was when they showed her running away. Like she just bailed right out of there. But before that, she had very goal directed behavior that was very, very organized. If
she was very calm.
She seemed like she really was calm, and I'd love to know if she really was.
Yeah.
because people with like sociopathic tendencies, they stay very calm in situations like that where we would be very like we would be a mess. They
Mm-hmm.
show very, very composed behavior and don't show that same like fight or flight. Physiologically, their brains are wired differently.
Mm-hmm.
And she did come across to me like she was very, very um you know, casual, nonchalant, um even, even telling the dogs, oh, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
like as if somebody like came to the door selling cookies and the dogs are barking.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, the dogs knew something was really wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell by their behavior that they were upset. But if you compare the dog's behavior to Carly's behavior, there was a very big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with animals versus humans, and those animals. I mean, I really challenge anybody to tell me that those dogs weren't upset during that and
Yeah.
agitated, right?
Their adrenaline levels
Yeah,
seem to go up.
yeah, it's true. Hi, Dave. Thanks for coming. Tammy
Hi,
McD, you're
Davita.
right. That's the only time I saw like an adrenaline like type situation was when she was running.
Yeah.
She was running away. But I'd like to know if anybody how everybody feels about what I said so far. I'm gonna list a couple of organized actions that I noticed in her behavior. Okay. And in the meantime, yeah, she did seem cold and very removed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, regrettably, but I
Yeah.
wrote these notes down. She supposedly, they said she used a burner phone. It was really an old iPad. Um, but she used it. What did she use it for again, Nana Patty? Who was she contacting on the iPad? I forget.
I think that she was just using it for social media. She wasn't supposed to be on social
Oh,
media.
okay. All right. I didn't remember that, but so they say she used burner phones, but it really was an old iPad that she used. I don't see that as like, oh, she went out, she saved up her allowance and she went to the store and bought burner phones. She didn't do that. Not that I know of anyway. Okay. But
No, I didn't hear that either.
um she put one of the cameras into the to the fridge to hide it. That was very goal oriented and very organized. She was telling,
Kind of,
oh, here's the other thing, okay?
kind of,
She had
kind of weird.
that.
Weird though that she put it in the fridge and didn't destroy it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and why she didn't destroy the other camera.
Exactly.
And
And why didn't, if she was going to carry this out, wouldn't she have done that ahead of time?
yeah.
It was very, when I say organized, I mean psychologically organized, not necessarily like organized, meaning like organized thought, um, coming up with, uh, like she hid the gun behind her back when she came into the kitchen. She told the dogs, don't worry, it's okay. She had I call that organized behavior only because
Mm-hmm.
it's, if your mind is dissociating and you're in this altered state, would you be reacting the same way that she was acting? I don't, to me, I don't think so. Um,
No, I would have been in a panic.
I think most of us would be. And here's the other thing that I thought about. Her mother is calling out for help after she shot her. And she didn't even, I don't think she even looked to turn around toward the mother's room, like the hallway. She kept texting her stepfather and she ignored the mother's cries for help. When
I didn't hear that. Wow, you got good ears.
the mother, I heard the mother say, help me, like
Mm-hmm.
2 3 times before she died. It's terrible. And the kid
Mm-hmm.
kept texting. She stayed on that goal directed behavior. She was focused on
Mm-hmm.
what she was doing. And that took a lot to ignore that. I mean, it's one thing to commit the crime. But then if the person's dying and they're calling for help, that's really cold-blooded. I mean, that really is very callous.
Yeah.
She might have been able to redeem herself a little bit if you would have seen her like, oh my God, what did I do? And run into the bedroom and say, oh my God, what's going on? Like, oh, I can't believe I did this. Oh my God, anything, any reaction that would have said, wait a minute, she really wasn't responsible for her own faculties. She really wasn't. Now, oh, here's the other thing that I found out. People were making a little bit of a big deal about the fact that she read, what was the book? Crime and Punishment, which tells the story of killing somebody for the greater good, right? But who knows if that had any, I don't know if she read the book and was like, oh, I think I'm going to shoot my mom, because I don't think, that's another thing too. Like, the mother came home, she was in the middle of looking for the vape pipe in Carly's room. She was actually, I think, shot in Carly's room. They talked about the fact that she read Crime and Punishment and it made a big impact on her. But I didn't feel like that was relevant at all. Listen, it might have had some impact, but you're only there to figure, a jury is really only there to figure out if the person really did it, right?
Yeah, if they're mentally competent.
Right, exactly.
In their mind.
Right. It was not guilty by reason of insanity is what they were going for. I think they might have been better off going, I don't know. What other defense could they use? They couldn't use self-defense. I mean,
yeah.
The mother wasn't attacking her or anything.
She had gathered all of her vape stuff up and had taken it into the mother's bedroom. Mom had taken the vape stuff into her own room and put it in her chair in her bedroom. And then she went back into her room for something else. And that's whenever Carly shot her.
Such a sad story. And the kid, she spent a lot of time crying when her stepfather went on the stand. And you wonder, like, is she regretting what she did? Does she have regret? Does she have remorse? We don't know any of those things. That's why I'm saying we get stuck in these psychological evaluations, and sometimes the most obvious things that you really, really need to know, they get thrown by the wayside, because they're looking for the recipe in the diagnostic manual. What label do we give the kid? The other issue was the medication, right? She was put on Zoloft and then switched over to Lexapro, right? I thought it was, while I'm thinking about this, I was thinking about the testimony of one of the, I think it was the court-appointed one, the older psychologist, the guy with the gray hair. He said, Carly really wanted to please her mother so bad. She wanted to please her mother.
And she let her down.
Right. And I thought about that. Thank you, Lucy J. Here's my thing about that. Okay, if she wanted to please her mother so bad, right? Why wouldn't she have stopped vaping, right? If she really wanted to not disappoint her mother, she would have stopped vaping, right? And maybe doing all the other things that would disturb the social media. Mother. Right.
Stop doing what she's not supposed to be doing.
Because that's all the mother wanted, right? She knew that. So I thought it was not a good way to say it. Oh, she really wanted to please her mom so bad. I was like, well, what could she have done to please her mother? Okay, so instead of trying to please her, you shoot her in the face 3 times. Like, it's so strange.
Yeah.
I would beg to say that I don't think it meant that much to Carly to please her mother. I just don't. Because she
No.
neglected to do the few things that the mother wanted her to do. So that's what was nagging me in the back of my head about the case. Wait a second. If she's
Mm-hmm.
that disappointing, she feels the burn of that. So give your mother what she wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have never, if I was testifying, I don't think I would have gone there. I wouldn't have had the nerve to say that, because I think that maybe some of the jurors might have been thinking that, you know?
Right.
Um, and then I wrote down a list of the different evaluators here and what how Carly responded to them. There was Olivia L. And she reported that Carly said no when she asked if she had psychotic thoughts. And then there was the other person was Rebecca K, who said that she did not report any dissociative symptoms at all. And then there was Amanda G, who said that she was competent to go to trial. And also Jason P, he was the one who said that he leaned more toward psychopathy than incompetency. He was the younger psychologist. And he's the person who said that he felt that Carly's behavior was callous.
But Carly's what?
Callous. She showed a callousness, and he felt that she even had some of those other characteristics that people exhibit, and they have some superficial charm about them. And she could be very manipulative. Now, I think the stepfather said, here's the thing. Who was the person? There was one person who said, I think he was the older psychologist. He said that Carly was exhibiting manic behavior.
Did she what?
Like manic behavior. Mania is like a person has an unbelievable amount of energy. Their mood is elevated. They don't need sleep. They could go days without sleeping. It's a very, very, very debilitating thing to have an episode of mania. And he said that he believed that she met the criteria for that. I'll define it for you guys, but now unless you've seen somebody in that state, you would probably just believe what he said and call it a day. But when people are in that state, you can't imagine what they're like. If Carly was in a manic state or hypomania, where like manic depression, you have the highs and the lows, right? But the mania, it never goes unnoticed by anybody. If she was in a state like that, she would have had difficulty going to school. Everybody would notice it. Her parents would be probably holding like vigil to watch her, because she probably didn't, like, she would be a person who didn't get sleep, who didn't need sleep, and could really get themselves into very serious trouble. Because there is so much disinhibition that like a person will exhibit behaviors they would never otherwise do. I've seen it where like people will take their clothes off, and I mean, it's an awful, awful thing when a person's in a manic state. And it doesn't happen like that where, okay, so you're manic for like a day, and then like you get up the next day and go to school and you're fine. It's just not like that.
Right.
So I was really taken back by that characterization, that he felt like she could fit into that criteria, because it would never happen like that. Everybody would know. Everybody would be, you can't miss it. It's when you see it, you know it. You know what I mean? Let's see what everybody says.
It's like people that are on speed.
It essentially really it is. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. And people that have that, they can slip into like a psychotic state that really looks very schizophrenic and very like psychiatric looking. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it's over, they really have no memory of it. I mean, it's like big blocks of time, days could pass, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't have any awareness of the days passing. I
What they
mean, it's
happened, what happened to them, or what
right,
actions they made or did, or.
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of surprised by that because I've never I it just doesn't work like that. Um Tammy said to me, if you're that focused and calm, that shows me premeditation. Yeah, it could have been. I don't believe
Mm-hmm.
it was just because her mom found okay. I know Vicky's talking a little bit about medication. We're going to talk about that because you have a good point with that um, that I want to address. Um, was she in a psychotic state? Um, was she in a psychotic state? In my mind, I don't think so. I don't see it. I don't see it. I think her her actions were much too organized and detail oriented. It takes a lot of thought. Even if you're being incompetent, like say you put okay, so you're sticking the camera in the fridge, okay, but it's an attempt to hide something. It speaks to organized
Guilt.
thought. Uh, well, it does speak to consciousness of guilt too, because if you like if you had nothing to hide, you'd never hide the camera, right? You
Mm-hmm.
would have no reason to. What I'm trying to do is take this to like focus our discussion on the psychology of it, the behavioral aspects of it. But you can't really separate that from all these other elements because they're all interconnected, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
say, she had her medication changed only the week before they put her on. They went from Zoloft to Lexapro. Now, Lexapro in children, young, teenagers, can cause at a high dose. Some of these medications can cause kids to act kind of manic, and I've seen that too. Um, and then the parents will say, um, we got to we have to take the kid off of it, and then they'll pick something else because it can do
Can't
that.
can't
But
it
it
cause
still
worsening depression too?
it can, there's a lot of debate about um, antidepressants in children because they say that their suicide risk goes up once you put a kid on an antidepressant. And that's because when a person is severely depressed, they become so withdrawn from life that they
Mm-hmm.
don't have the energy to kill themselves. They just don't have it in them. And then when you give them medication, it gives them
The energy.
just enough, right, just enough energy to follow through on a thought. So that's the
Wow.
rationale of why it could be a little precarious when you're first putting a child or a teenager on some of these drugs. Um,
That's awful.
so you really, when a child goes on these medications, you got to watch them. You got to keep an eye on them. No
Mm-hmm.
question about it. Now I've seen cases where a child will become manic on an SSRI, an antidepressant, but it still doesn't look like a manic episode that an adult would have
Mm-hmm.
usually. But there are exceptions, I mean, I'm not going to just make it up. I'm telling you the truth. But again, a person who's in that state is going to be flitting around, um, going from place to place. It's like almost like an extreme form of hyperactivity, and focus is not good. Focus is not good.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I think that was a factor? Maybe. Her dosage, I believe, was 5 milligrams. if I'm not mistaken.
It wasn't a high dose.
No, it was low, right? Doesn't matter though.
Mm-hmm.
It is a medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, J.C. Ray said, why don't they try marijuana first? Now, she says, aren't there less side effects? See, I don't agree with that on a couple of levels. Same way, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy because I'm going to say something else. I'm not a fan of holistic medicine or supplements to treat children's psychological problems. I've seen a lot of disasters from people's attempt to avoid psychiatric medications for their kids in lieu of, supplements, or I know it was
Or
mentioned,
medical marijuana.
marijuana, medical marijuana. Um, in my experience, I have to tell you, it never worked out to be the right thing, because supplements, first of all, are not regulated the way drugs are, medications are, right? We don't really know when we give a kid a supplement what effect it's going to have at all. It's a crapshoot.
And does that supplement have more or less in it than what it says? Because it's not
Exactly.
regulated.
It's not regulated, so the dosage is not always the same. I've had a couple of real disasters with some kids where the parents can't cope with putting them on medicine, but they would rather try supplements, and it's just one big giant,
Cluster.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, I'd rather see a kid on a medication, because then we always have a psychiatrist on board, because they have to get it from somebody. And then
Mm-hmm.
you could communicate with that doctor and let that doctor know exactly what's going on. And the dosage is always the same. So for me, I've learned through the years, it's much safer to do it with a doctor's guidance, and to try a medication over a supplement. Now, maybe other people might not agree, but that's my opinion from what I've experiences I've had. And you know what? I'll tell you, a couple of times I've had kids, right, that go on medication, and they start to do really, really well. And then the parents say, oh, I don't think he needs it anymore, because look how good he's doing, or she. And they take the child off of it, and the kid crashes really bad. And then they go to put the kid back on it, but it doesn't work the same the second time the kid gets put back on it. So
I think that's that way with psychiatric meds in adults sometimes
it
too.
can be, it really can be. I'm
Personally,
only, yeah, I'm only speaking for my experience, because I never treated adults, but that's my experience with kids.
I know
And
personally, I've struggled with depression since I was a teenager, and have been on different medications and tried to go back to a medication, and it didn't work.
yeah, I don't know why that is. I don't know if the brain, um because we have the blood brain barrier and all that fancy stuff, right? I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
the brain, the brain chemistry changes, and the brain adapts to having it, and then adapts to not having it, and then, like, you don't have those receptors anymore, or something. There's got to be a
Mm-hmm.
reason, though.
Some kind of chemical reason.
There's got to be a reason, but it would make me so sad, because then the kid, you're almost starting from scratch again. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So yeah, medication isn't always the worst thing for a child.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the supplement. There was one supplement that I had with one child in particular, and the parents didn't even tell me that they put him on the supplement, so I didn't even know. And he was getting a lot of these, like, explosive outbursts. And then finally the parents told me what they were doing. By then
And you're like,
they
great.
were taking him off of it. So now you had a kid that was on it, a supplement, did really bad. Now he's off of it. He's a hot mess. Now we want to
Mm-hmm.
go back on the regular medicine, and then you're saying, please let it work,
Mm. Yeah.
um Now,
What a terrible situation to be in as a parent,
it is.
and know that if you put that kid on medication and they're already depressed, what could happen?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you convince yourself that it's the right move to make?
Right. Well, usually in that situation, the depression is so bad that you recognize like that it's a medical necessity because it's
Mm-hmm.
the depression or the anxiety. I put them together, right? Because these medications really treat both, right? But
Mm-hmm.
usually it's in a situation where the parent's back is against the wall because the child is so um it is not functioning well at all, like
Mm-hmm.
can't separate, having separation anxiety, not being able to go to school, like in other words, the impairment is across all settings. And the
Yeah.
parents just say, I don't have a choice now. I have to do it. But you need to really be vigilant and watch. Really,
Right.
really watch. And
Make
make
sure they
sure
don't
they're
become
okay.
suicidal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I've seen a lot of promising things going on with doctors who do pre-treatment genetic testing to see ahead of time what medications will work for a person
Oh
based on
yeah.
the genetic makeup, which is that fascinates me. That
Yeah.
really, really fascinates me. I just think that's very cool. I think it's the future
Mm-hmm.
of medicine,
I
you
think
know?
it'd be awesome.
Yeah. My son, he's a very unusual case because he has somebody else's DNA
Yeah.
in his body, right? And
Because
he
of the
just went for
transplant.
yeah, he just went for his for some genetic testing for some medical problems. And when the results came back, they were testing him to see if he had like rheumatoid arthritis. He had developed problem with his hands, swelling and pain in his hands really bad, and everything came back negative. But considering he's got um, the blood of a female, it's not his own. The doctors weren't, sure that it was his results or hers. Probably it was hers. So, the area of genetics is fascinating. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, now we can do a cheek swab and do, ancestry.com or 23andMe and get our genetic makeup. I got some genetic testing from a kidney doctor a couple of years ago. Remember Nana Patty? That was
Yeah.
cool. Very cool stuff going on. And I love the idea that you could test people before you give it to them. You look so cute today, drinking out of your pink cup.
Oh,
What do you got in there?
thank you, Dr. Pepper.
Oh, nice. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that the psychologist, the younger one, male, he was the one who mentioned the superficial charm and the callousness. Excuse me. And I had written down, oh yeah, and the texting of the stepfather pretending to be the mother. That was crazy, right? Crazy.
Mm-hmm. That was very calculated.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky was saying, that's my daughter. She struggles to go to school and never wants to go out, but does not want medication. Oh, Vicky. How old is she? Poor little thing. I've had a lot of kids that were school phobic.
She's 14.
Oh, she's 14. Oh, poor little thing. What's the most interesting thing about one of the positive things about medications, especially for kids? We talked about before, like hearing voices, right? A lot of kids that have anxiety and depression, they get a thought in their mind. It's their own voice telling them things that are repetitively uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very noisy in there. And a lot of kids will say that, they can't escape almost like themselves. And there's usually a theme about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
About the things that these intrusive thoughts, and some of these medications, they turn off that dialogue, not the good stuff, but a lot of times I've heard from kids say that their own voice of some of the things that they would convince themselves of that were not good for them, their brains became much more quiet, and they didn't have
Yeah,
to deal with those intrusive thoughts anymore. And
that's a good thing.
it's such a nice thing to see, because you know what,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it's the same thing for adults. Like, if you don't try it, you'll never know. What's
Right.
the worst thing that can happen? You stop it, you know.
We,
If
we
that particular medication isn't the right thing, you know what I mean? Now,
we've dealt
she
with that in our family, that
mm-hmm,
we had one that was diagnosed. I'm not going to say it's a kid. I'm not going to say who it is, but diagnosed with bipolar, someone in our family.
mm-hmm.
And they tried medicine for a little while and stopped. And I don't know how, but they've managed to lead a pretty normal life without the
That,
medicine.
that's a really good question, because I think one of the number one medications for bipolar is lithium.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it seems to be very effective for a lot of people, but most people hate the side effects of it. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people walking around with manic depression that's the doctor will go a roundabout way and prescribe other things to help.
Uh-huh.
But ultimately, the best thing for it, I think, I might, unless there's other things, because I'm not an expert
Mm-hmm.
in this area at all. But lithium had always been the traditional drug of
Mm-hmm.
choice, right? Am I right, Nana Patty?
Yeah, but that's not what they put her on.
Well, like I said, maybe there's better drugs now than that. But in any case, I think one of the most untreated disorders is probably manic
Bipolar.
depression, because bipolar disorder. Because here's another thing that happens to people: sometimes they like being in the manic state. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
change it.
They don't want to be out of that mental state.
They want to be they want to be like supercharged. They don't
Mm-hmm.
dislike it necessarily. They might not even see the worst like side effects of it, because not everybody that's bipolar becomes psychotic.
Right.
And don't forget, there's other mental disorders besides bipolar. There's
Mm-hmm.
schizophrenia. There's schizoaffective disorder. I think it's still in here. There's a lot of different like areas here where some of these behaviors could be similar. The only difference is that there's like a waxing and a waning. So you're going from ultra high to ultimately very low
Mm-hmm.
mood. You know, I can't. I mean, that's got to be one of the most uncomfortable things to have.
You think so?
But I would think if Carly Gregg had that, the school would have been all over it. She just wouldn't have been able to really function like a regular person. That's
And
my feeling about it.
and don't forget, she was able to skip a grade because
Yes,
of her IQ.
right.
She had a very high IQ.
Very smart, very smart young girl, very smart. But it just goes to show you, obviously, she had very poor coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could all agree on that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Also, like, did she have like sort of magical thinking? Like, what did she think was going to happen? The mother's dead. You're in jail. Like, it just doesn't make any sense when you see a young girl with an IQ like that, a brilliant girl, making a
Mm-hmm.
decision like that, right? It just doesn't make any
Right.
sense. That's why you never can say never with a child, because IQ doesn't have anything to do with um, maturity. Um, the two can be juxtaposed in one person. And that happens. I have to say, there's been a lot of kids that I've met in my life that are brilliant, brilliant kids, but extremely impaired.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But she comes across more of the cold and callous type of maybe antisocial,
And immature.
and very immature.
Mm-hmm.
Now her mother, by going to get the vape pipe, she probably expected to just take the vape pipe, maybe give her a consequence or something like that. She never expected her daughter to do that. But if you
No,
really think about it, like, what was their dynamic like? What relationship did they have with each other? Were they close? Were they not close? I don't
they
know.
were close. They were
They
very close.
very close.
Mm-hmm. That's another reason it made no sense
No, it doesn't make sense.
because
I,
they
I
were so.
almost I almost want to say, not that she was psychotic or dissociative, but could it be that she is the type of person, even though she's so bright, that she has that magical thinking of a child? Like, my mother's not dead. I was mad at her, and like, she's gonna she's gonna get up and come on in here. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter that I shot her in the face.
Mm-mm.
Was she more, was it more that than anything else? Or maybe the opposite. Maybe she just had, this, like, this antisocial psychopathy going on, that, if you want to call it, we mix the terms up, but I'm talking about somebody who's like, it's almost like a bad seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you said she was very close to her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really tried to take a deep dive and find developmental history. What was she like as a little child, as a young child? I would love to know that. Now, that would have been an interesting dialogue, even in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
What, there had to be something,
Mm-hmm.
had to be something that went on as a child. If she turned out like this,
There was.
had
There
to,
were times when she would go visit her dad and he wouldn't leave the TV for 2 days. That meant he didn't feed her or take care of her for 2 days, and she was a little girl.
right.
And
I'm talking about psychiatric, though. Like when you work with kids and you're around kids all the time, it doesn't take much to figure out that something's going on with a young child, and you keep your eye on them, and something's wrong. Was that
mhm,
that type of a kid? Was she that type of a kid when she was little? That's what I'd want to know.
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know.
Oh, Metal Mike said, my case is the worst of all. I'm 26 and I have medication resistance. It makes me very sick and sends me, oh no, sends me to the ambulance when I take any type of mental. Jeez, I
That's
never heard of
awful.
that. I never heard of that. Yeah. Every day is hell with schizophrenia and not able to find. Okay, so your problem is schizophrenia. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't imagine what that feels like for you. Um, I'm so sorry you're going through that. It's just not right,
Yeah.
you know? Because
I
in
wish
this
there was
day and
some kind
age,
of,
we have a lot of medications that can help people.
yeah. I
I'm
wish
very
there was
so,
something we could say
yeah,
that could help him.
yeah. I wish I could, I wish I had something I could offer to help in some manner. And Lucy J was saying about her daughter, she says other kids could be bullying her at school. See, that makes everything worse.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep the lines of communication open as much as I can.
It seemed like that could be a possibility because she didn't have a lot of friends.
I saw that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Vicky said there is no bullying at school. I checked. I thought to begin with, it could be that she is autistic too. You know what? I was going to say, Vicky, she could actually be on the spectrum, because she talks a lot about not having friends. Now she got her
Mhm.
friend to come over to look at her mother. She
Yeah.
wanted to come over and look at a dead body, but she wasn't the type of child that had a lot of friends. And that goes back to the fact that you can have like this tremendously bright kid, but they just don't know the half of like making a friend. I had kids, there were a lot of times where I met kids like at that age, and they were like a few years ahead of their peers, like mature, not maturity wise, but um like they found it hard to have anything in common with kids their own age because their IQ was so much higher that they found
Mhm.
other kids boring and unstimulating in any way. And I
Mhm.
remember telling them, just wait to college. Just give yourself a few more years, get through this. And when you go to college, you'll be meeting people that are much more diverse. And you will
Mhm.
probably make more friends in college than you will here. Because you like been here, done that. Things, the
Right.
patterns are already established. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just being like on a practical level. There were quite a few
Mhm.
kids like that I came across. And I would just say to them, just give yourself, you've got to give yourself time, um, and try to get through what you have here. And then when you get to college, you'll see a very big difference, because they just didn't have anything in common with their peers at all. And
Mhm.
I used to try to tell the teacher a little bit too and say to them, take this child under your wing a little bit because you're an adult. They relate more to you. So, so that there are some connections there that the kid doesn't go to school every day and have nobody to talk to or anything like that. But, there's a lot of kids that are ahead of their time, and
Yeah.
everybody thinks that there's something wrong with them and they're really just, hybrids or something, but something happened with this child that and I would want to know what was her early childhood like. That's the one question that I really have. I wish they would have delved into that a little bit more, you know.
Yeah. That would
I
have been
really
good.
Yeah, because then we would have a window because children that end up doing these kinds of things, they usually have a history of, hurting animals, starting fires, um, a lot of different behaviors, a lot of different
Mhm.
really antisocial behaviors, conduct disorders. Well, I don't think she has that because um, she didn't really. It didn't seem like she bullied other kids though. But she did say that she got frustrated with the other students that like if they didn't do what they were supposed to do for homework or something like that, she would get frustrated. Um, you know,
Hmm.
I read that like she felt like impatient with them, like because they were acting like kids,
Mhm.
which I've seen that a lot of times. These kind of kids, like they don't have the patience for the nonsense. They don't want to. They get to school, they don't want to sit around and listen to the other kids talking about nonsense. They want to get. They're more driven toward like they like the work of school. They like the
Mhm.
learning aspect of it. You know. Um, um, Oh, Lucy J gave us a little information about metal Mike, it happens in about 30% of cases. Really? That's high. You mean that people
That
that
is
like
high.
can't take medications? That's a lot of people. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And then Lucy J said, I am wondering if metal Mike could take lithium, as lithium is a base mineral that has been discovered in France in around 1958. Yeah, it's been around forever, right?
Mhm.
I'm guessing that if he tried everything, um, well, maybe he could tell us.
Mhm.
But it's amazing, like when you hear some people's story, it just breaks your heart sometimes. I had a lot of family members with it, and my husband suffered from bipolar. Oh, so Lucy J, you've been up close and personal. It's not fun. Um, Not fun at all. The other thing is, if Carly had bipolar, why was she only put on Zoloft and Lexapro?
I don't think they diagnosed her with bipolar yet.
Wasn't that part of the debate though? Whether or not she had it? I thought it was. Maybe I'm
Mhm.
wrong.
It was.
It was, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And she'd only seen this doctor 3 times.
yeah, I saw that. And
So
then the other one that she had seen 9 times, the blonde. I think she was
she'd seen her 9 times. I thought she'd only seen her a few times.
no, but there was another person that only saw her 3 times too. You're right about that. But I got them mixed up, but
Hi, Sherry.
oh yeah. I was talking about that psychologist. He said that adolescents are really good at hiding their psychological problems from their parents. And I wrote down, but mania is difficult to miss. So I was thinking to myself, if you're in that state, you can't hide it. It's just not going to happen like that. And I wrote to myself, why was she so calm? And I put sociopathy in next to it. The therapist Rebecca Kirk said that she never had when she asked her, she said she never used illegal drugs. She denied hearing voices. She denied having any hallucinations, and did not report having any blackouts, which is very, it can be common when a person goes into that state. Up to my psychiatrist in the past. Let's see. I have not tried lithium, but the doctor is assuming if I did, it would still give me some type of reaction because I'm already allergic and have adverse reactions to so many meds. I've brought it. Okay,
It might
medications,
not.
but so it's
I
it's
have a
an
question.
allergic response, right?
Metal might.
Yeah.
Can your doctor put you in a controlled environment to try a medication?
Oh, that's not a
Like,
bad idea.
like, can they put you in the
They
hospital
did that to me with a drug too. I just thought of it. That's a very good
and
suggestion.
and monitor you closely to make sure that you're okay with
Yep.
you don't have a reaction? And since lithium is not like a man-made drug, it's more of a natural occurring
It is. It's a mineral.
mineral. Maybe you wouldn't react to it like
Lucy
you
J
have the
wrote that.
man-made drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm?
No, Lucy J wrote that. It's a
Hi,
mineral.
hi, hi, Jackie.
Thanks for coming, Jackie Burns, you sweetheart.
I know I was in the Sarah Boone trial too, Jackie, right up to the point where I started this live. And I was like, I know we're not going to have very many people, but maybe people will watch this on replay. So if
Yeah.
you're watching on replay, hi and thank you.
Thanks for coming. But
Mm-hmm.
let's see what else I have here. What else did I write? The court appointed psychiatrist said that she had psychopathic tendencies. She was diabolical and deceitful, and she definitely knew the difference between right and wrong.
Mm.
I was also looking at the criteria for bipolar, and it mentioned in the manual, right, that we use to diagnose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It said that it was associated with distractibility. And I really tried to think about, like, was Carly on that videotape, was she being disorganized? Was she being uh Nunu, he's turning this over. Was she disorganized and distractible, or was she well focused? What did everybody think? If you remember looking at the video of her, right,
I
in the
think she was
kitchen,
well focused.
she seemed to me to be very focused, very goal
Mm-hmm.
oriented. So I can't believe they went for not guilty by reason of insanity, because you know even us
But then,
just talking about it,
mhm.
it just doesn't look that way.
No, it doesn't look that way. But could it have been that way and not look that way?
That's the point. That's what I'm saying to everybody, because like it's the same thing, like the same concept. Like I remember when I was in school, they would show us, uh, a videotape of a child crying, and they would say to us, "Is this an anxious child? Is this an angry child? Is this a frightened child? Is this a
Mhm.
child that went through trauma?" And they would just show this kid crying. And then you realize when you're doing it in that context, when you really think about it, you're really only guessing when you're looking at a child behave a certain way. You're
Mhm.
really, I mean, you can make your best guesstimate. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the things I remember about children on the autism spectrum is when you have, like, say you're in a classroom and the teacher is reading the children a story on the carpet, all the little cute little kids are sitting on the carpet. The teacher is reading a story to the whole class. The child on the spectrum is looking out the window, looking at the ceiling, you know, not, but all
Doing
the other
everything.
children, their eyes are glued to the teacher, right?
Mhm.
But when a funny part of the story happens, you're seeing the child on the autism spectrum start laughing the same way the other kids are laughing. And then, okay, so a few minutes later, the teacher says, ask the kids a question about the book. And the child with autism raises their hand and they get the answer right.
So that
You
kid's
learn
pretty talented. That kid can be everywhere else and still paying attention.
exactly. So, but if you didn't know any better, if you only, or like I learned that as a rule, like I never assumed anything about a kid on the spectrum, because you learn,
Mhm.
you see things, because when you're only observing and you can't, and you're not supposed to interact, you
Mhm.
learn to look at clues like that so you can see what that child is really doing and why. So for
Mhm.
that matter, if that child's on the carpet, I'm not necessarily going to recommend that somebody sits next to that kid and refocus their attention onto the teacher, because they obviously are paying attention. They're getting as much as they can without even having to look that often, like the other children. But see, the other children's brains are focused, are programmed to look at the teacher. And then we automatically assume that when they're looking, they're processing. But it doesn't work that way with every kid. So you learn that a lot of things that kids do can look a certain way and they're really not. Now I'll give you another example. Carly's got like little cuts over here around her mouth. And on certain days they look a little bit healed, and on other days they look very fresh. I believe she's probably a picker. And that would make sense because she was a cutter.
Mhm.
And I could see very easily that quality in her that I said, the minute I looked at her, I'm like, she's a picker. She's got to be a picker. Who else is
Is
picking
that
at?
from is that from anxiety?
Right. But that's what I was going to just say. Is it because of the circumstances she's in right now, because she killed her mother? Or did she do that all along? Or if she did something, was it something like that? Or was she still cutting, but now she has nothing to cut with except
Mhm.
her own hands, so she's picking. So the behavior
Mhm.
changed into from cutting to picking, because
Mhm.
she doesn't have an instrument in her jail cell to cut with.
Mhm.
So she's picking instead.
Mhm.
That's one of the first things I noticed. I said, especially with her history of cutting.
Yeah.
So,
Really.
and as a mental health professional, I would have really taken a dive into the cutting.
Mhm.
Um, what
Middle
was the
might.
reason for that behavior? Is it an anxiety? Is it, I'll give you a clue. Is it, I'll give you a clue as to what I would think when I would see a kid like that. Because I've had a lot of pickers. Is it being done as a sensory experience, because when you pick at your skin and you draw blood, you're making endorphins in your body. And some children, they don't know, they're not conscious of it, but it's giving them some sort of intrinsic motivation to do it again, because their body is giving them endorphins, and those endorphins are making them feel less pain and maybe some pleasure that on some level we don't know. So that would be sort of like a reinforcer. Well, I don't want to use techno, like something that just is right for the body. We'll put it like that. Okay. Or is it an attention seeking behavior that something is going on with that child and they don't feel that they're getting enough attention? And whenever they pick, somebody's going, stop picking. Don't pick. It makes me worry about you. I don't want you to pick. Please don't pick. Okay. Or is it a behavior that's coming from anxiety, because the kid's really, really anxious, right? So you would have to decide, but the behavior looks the same, right? The picking is the picking, the cutting is the cutting. But what you would do is you would have to do, which is what my job really was, is to go in and look at every single situation where that kid picks and actually count. Sometimes you could count sometimes the amount of scabs that a kid has, or you can measure the duration of the picking behavior across different settings, and then you compare them, and then you can come up with a reason, but only then. And you're talking about, a pretty decent investment in time, but it's not hard. When you have a picker, they pick a lot. So you usually get a pretty decent sampling of that behavior across time in different settings, and then you figure it out. But you see how complex it is? For just one behavior, you can't just guess, oh, that's why the kid's doing it.
Right.
It won't work, because then you try to fix it and you're going after the wrong reason for that behavior. We'll call it the function, and you're not going to really be able to get rid of it. So kids, and I'm talking only from the frame of reference from children from in like little tiny children up until, maybe 20, in their 20s. That's most of my experiences with kids. So that's how my frame of reference is. But, getting back to Carly, it would take, you'd have, now that she's sort of coming out with things that, she's saying she's got these problems, now you'd want to revisit all that stuff, and like, why didn't she mention it to any of the therapists? She had so many chances to mention it, right? But because apparently she was seeing somebody before this, right? The woman who said it was like the most shocking day of her life. The one she started to cry, the poor thing. She was so affected by it. She's going to really feel the real burn of that, because she's blaming herself probably for not figuring it out. But you only can get what you can get from a person, like look at the case of Maddie Soto. She saw a therapist at school, and the therapist never knew the kid was being,
abused,
SA'd by the boyfriend. You're only going to get what they give you.
That's true. Metal Mike put another comment in there for you.
But let's see. The problem is my brain is getting damaged further by the illness. I know. And I'm starting to not know the difference between real and fake. I have visual and auditory hallucinations every day. Oh my goodness.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Did anybody ever see the movie called, I think it's called A Beautiful Life? The story of John Nash?
I think I might have. Was it about someone with schizophrenia?
Yeah, he had schizophrenia, and he was a brilliant man. And he had, the poor thing had, such difficulties in his life. I actually wrote him a letter. I wrote to him once. Because my heart went out to him about what he went through in his life, and um,
Did he write back?
he wrote. I think he did write back. I got to look around and see if I could find it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to go. It has to be probably when the movie first came out. We're talking probably, I don't know, Nana Patty, over 20 years ago. What a
Mm-hmm.
story, though. It was about a man who had schizophrenia. He was a college professor, and he had to train himself to ignore the hallucinations that he would figure out which ones were hallucinations and which ones aren't. And
Mm-hmm.
he lived his life that way, but it was in no way very easy at all.
Mm-hmm.
At all. But what a story, My heart goes out to you. I would hope that there could be something out there that could help you out. There's got to be somebody who can um
Do something.
do something like, maybe like I was saying before, like genetic testing, and see like what you would react to ahead of time. And Nana Patty, you had a good suggestion too, like trying a medicine in a controlled medical environment.
Mm-hmm.
When I did it, it was before I had kids. I had Lyme disease, and the medicine I was supposed to take made me allergic, and they put me in the ICU and they desensitized me to it.
Did it work?
It did, and I got treated, for the Lyme disease intravenously for 3 weeks on that drug. But they kept me in the hospital because they were afraid I would still react, but I didn't. I mean, I had
Yeah.
minor, maybe some hives, a little wheezing, nothing bad though.
Yeah.
So yeah, but maybe, I don't know. I wish I knew more that I could help you. Um, Thanks for coming in, Jackie. You saw the movie too, Jackie? Wasn't it phenomenal? It is a true story. Metal Mike, I don't know if he was a professor, yeah. Maybe you listen, maybe you want to watch that movie to give you a little bit of hope that it could be something possible that you could work on for yourself. But I don't know. If you feel though that it's going to make things worse for you, don't watch it then.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could have the opposite effect on you, and I wouldn't want that to happen. So um but my heart goes out to you. If I could think of anything that could help you, you know
Well, Madam Mike, maybe not switch doctors. Maybe go to one for another opinion. If you
yeah.
really like the
See,
doctor
maybe
that
we
you
could.
have.
It sounds like that they're being very mental health for over 35 years. He's probably the best doctor in town. Well, it sounds like he's being very careful with you, and I think that's very important. um and I know what you mean. I know the feeling, because I have complex medical needs. Okay, not the same as you, but when I find a good doctor, I don't want to give them
I
up.
will
And
leave them.
you know what, Nana Patty? One thing that bothers me, and I know you relate to this, I can't stand going to another doctor and telling them my whole story from the beginning. It's too
Mm-hmm.
much.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
You need to send a DVD or video before you go so they can catch up on your history.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's ridiculous. It
mm-hmm.
just is. And it's like, oh God, I got to start
Yeah.
from scratch. Oh my
Well, I
God, I
went
can't do that. Right?
today I
Yeah,
went for a second opinion.
you did.
So I know how you feel, Metal Mike. I have this surgeon that I absolutely adore and love that did my hip replacement. And he's not the original doctor. He's my second doctor that went back in and did 3 more surgeries on me. But I went for another opinion today about problems I'm still having with that hip. And I felt like I was betraying my
Mm-hmm.
doctor,
Mm-hmm.
whom I love. And
I
you
totally
know,
relate to that.
and that the appointment turned out great. And
Oh, good.
um, they had a recommendation to try, and um, I probably won't go back to that doctor again if this works. Then then that works. But I'll go back to the one that I love, the original one.
Mm-hmm.
But getting another opinion never hurts because, I was having a lot of problems with this hip, and the doctor thinks it's bursitis.
Oh, that's so
And
painful, Nana Patty. It's one of the
mhm,
most painful conditions you could have.
yeah, so he prescribed an exercise programs specifically for bursitis.
Wow.
And so I'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was second opinion. I got a recommendation for something that I hadn't been told before. So we'll give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Mm-hmm.
is hard though. It is hard when you have a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not the same as like a person who doesn't. I mean, let's be honest, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh,
Yeah.
Lucy J said, even when I keep going back to my doctor, I have to repeat it. I hate that. It's true because they can't remember everything. They can't,
No.
you know. I could
No.
switch doctors. Okay, that's what Metal Mike said. Yeah, like it's real. I have a
Really.
couple of my doctors that I've depended on for
Go
probably
outside.
almost as long as I'm married, and they're all kind of retiring now because they're the same age. They don't want to
Yeah.
retire as old people. They're
They
hitting like
see they
55,
see all the bad
60.
things. They see all
Mhm.
the bad things people go through, and they're like, I don't want to work till I'm old.
Yeah, but yet
Mm-hmm.
I have one doctor. I told you about him, Nana Patty. He's very old. He's the oldest one in the practice, and he uses a walker.
Yeah.
And he took care of me the last couple times because I'm having some lung issues from post COVID. So I've gone to him a
Mm-hmm.
couple times, and he's just an angel. I mean, he's just wonderful. And I just love when he comes in that office with his shirt and his tie and he's pushing that walker because he has some
Mm-hmm.
medical issues himself. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just age. He's got some, difficult,
Health issues.
yeah. And I just love
Mm-hmm.
him to bits. I just think,
Yeah.
and he says to me, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit home. What am I going to do? I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to sit home, and
Yeah, you'd probably die if you didn't work.
yeah, yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is going to retire young.
Mm-hmm.
This one's staying in the game. The cardiologist that I see, I just talked to him about it because I heard a rumor that he was going to leave. And he goes, I don't think I could ever really leave. He goes, I don't know anything else except being a doctor. I can't. He goes, I might cut down on my hours, but like, I'm not going anywhere. So I felt like, okay, I didn't lose him, but I lost a wonderful rheumatologist too. And,
Mm-hmm.
they want to have a life at some point too sometimes. And then you're like, I still haven't found one that I like,
Mm-hmm.
or not like him. He was fantastic, but
I
uh,
know there's no way I could find a new rheumatologist that would be like mine because mine has the same disease I have.
that's right. That's right. You told me
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah.
So she
There's so many
understands
good people out
everything.
there, in terms of physicians. Some of them are really good. Like they're really in it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice if you go to one and they're not, you feel it right away. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't happening.
No, you don't feel
No.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if you go to one and they want to change up everything you're
I
doing.
know. I
It's
know.
like, whoa, wait a minute. It took me years to get to this point.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Don't be changing things.
Yeah. And there's my Metal Mike said, I know it sounds weird. I'm sorry I'm yawning, everyone. I was up at 4:30 today.
Or you're
Maybe I
probably
could
getting
ask to go
tired.
to what?
You're
Now
probably
making you
getting
yawn.
tired.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I could ask to go to a state hospital by a recommendation by my psychiatrist until I'm stabilized, perhaps 6 months to a year hospitalization, like my uncle. So you're thinking like signing yourself in and just putting yourself in the hands of the doctors to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big decision, you know. I don't know what state you're in, but I don't know. Like, that's got to be such a tough choice. And I know, I'm sure you want just to have stability in your life. That's
And
not
that six
asking too much, right?
and being in the hospital would be very
Restrictive, right?
stable and routine,
Right.
and you would have a you'd know what each day was going to be like.
Right, it's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that they didn't close down all of these institutions. I
Mm-hmm.
think we really need them, but I think they should have really worked hard to improve them.
Right.
There's no reason why people like funding couldn't have been increased to really beef up these hospitals, the trainings for people, the pay rates that they make when they work with people with mental disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would do people a tremendous disservice that we don't have that anymore, because there were a lot of
And
people that had a life there, and
yeah.
like we have so many people like on the streets, like it's
Mm-hmm.
terrible. We
Mm-hmm.
really need to pay better attention to
To mental
people that,
health.
yeah, yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like it's there's like it's always like flowing above everything else, but like nobody wants to look at it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
bad, you know?
It's really bad.
It is. Oh, sorry. Ugh.
He's in
Oh, you're in
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. What?
I was saying he's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. But I am technically a vulnerable adult. I am unable to take care of myself. Yes.
So do you have help? Somebody to take care of you, Mike? I also have a question, Lisa. I don't know how familiar you are with the shock therapy. Um, I know that they do that for depression. Do
Mm-hmm.
they do it for other things
You
other
know
than
what?
depression?
I don't know. I'm really not sure. I really don't have that much um experience with that
The reason I
to
ask
tell
is
you, because I've worked mostly with, children.
kids. My mother-in-law, from the stories my husband just told, was a completely different woman when she was raising her family. And as they got into their later teenage years, she kind of had a meltdown and ended up in the hospital. And they did shock therapy on her. And she was a completely different person after she had those treatments.
Well, I've heard that they really help people, that it does.
Yeah.
And it's so much, they do so much less now.
Mm-hmm.
And the person's under anesthesia, they're not even awake for it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a last resort, I don't think I've ever heard or read anything that said that it really doesn't work. It can
Mm-hmm.
be very effective for people. I'm not sure about manic depression though, but for depression, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say like if you needed it, it wouldn't be a scary thing, because
Yeah.
it is scary, but it's so much more controlled now than in
Mm-hmm.
the old days. You know what I mean? It's so much
Oh
different.
yeah.
It was very barbaric in the old days.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm sure that that's probably what she had because we're talking 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I know somebody in my family, they're not around anymore, but somebody, related to me was an aunt that needed it. She got it and it helped. It helped her.
mm-hmm.
But nothing else helped. I mean, this was around when there was no medications, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be institutionalized forever in my later years. That's what I fear. I'm hoping for a group home once I get SSI. Still waiting for my uncle had 20 shock treatments in the late 90s.
Did it
And
help?
did it help him? He also has schizophrenia. That's a good point. Um, Instead of institutions now, they have smaller group homes for people.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that might be a good alternative.
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting almost 2 years for SSI. My father takes care of me. Oh, I'm glad you have your dad.
Yeah.
I hope you get it soon. The wait for help is so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like it shouldn't be like that.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And you think somebody with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, it would just be automatic. Just
I mean,
boom.
what's the controversy? It
Mm-hmm.
should be it should be approved right away, right?
Mm-hmm. Should be. They do that with cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they do it with mental health?
I know, I know. They don't. People don't understand that mental health is a physical problem.
Mm-hmm. Affects every aspect of
it
their life.
does, and it has to do with like brain chemistry, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
medical problem. It,
Mm-hmm.
this is medical issues, but because it manifests in behavior, it's like go to the back of the line. It's like, you know, what are your
Carol
thoughts
Clark.
on Carly being tried as an? Oh, that's a good question. Carly
No, I
being
don't.
tried as an adult.
I don't think she should have been. That's my
Wow.
opinion.
Hmm.
I disagree with it, but apparently it's a statute in that state
Is it?
that it just was passed and went
Oh,
into
I didn't know
effect.
that. So the reason why they tried her as an adult because it was particularly heinous.
It was because she was over the age of 13 and she used a firearm.
Oh, she did.
Mm-hmm.
She sure
That's what the
did.
statute says. That if they're over the age of 13, it's either 12 or 13. I think it's 13, and they use a firearm, they're automatically tried as an adult.
Wow.
And I did not agree with that.
Now, what would have changed? Oh, they had bad side effects for a while, Metal Mike. He said the treatments did work, but they had horrible side effects for a while. And that was in the 90s. Yeah, I would have to research it and make sure, like, who was giving it to me, who was going to administer it and things like that. But what would
Mm-hmm.
have changed if they would have tried her as a juvenile? What would have been different?
She would have probably gotten out when she was 18.
Wow.
Um, she would probably be like on probation or parole or something like that.
Wow.
It could have gone all the way to 21. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but
Wow.
she would be in a juvenile facility, not an adult facility
You
like
want to
she
take
is now.
you want to take a poll and see how everybody feels about it? Tell us how you feel about Carly being tried as an adult. If you agree, say that
There's a
you
way to
agree.
do a poll.
Is there?
I can,
I'm
yeah, if
curious
I
to
can,
see how everybody feels. That's quite a difference, Nana Patty,
yeah,
of the consequence, right?
yeah. Trying to figure out how to do a poll. No, that's not what I
Oh,
want.
Carol said she didn't agree either.
Oh, good. Well, I can't figure out how to do the poll, but
Let's see if you guys agree or disagree. Tell us.
if you agree that she should not have been tried as an adult, put a 1 in the chat.
Okay.
If you disagree and you believe that she should have been tried as an adult, like it was, put a 2 in the
Mm-hmm.
chat. Madam Mike,
Nana Patty, I'm having a hard time with this one.
I know. With this case, Madam Mike, this is a 14-year-old that killed her mother.
So one
Um,
is you agree?
yeah, one is you agree that she should not have been tried as an adult.
Okay.
Number
Hmm.
2 is that you think that yes, she should have been tried as an adult. I don't think that she's mature enough to know to be tried as an adult. She's not has doesn't have the maturity of an adult. She has the maturity of a less than a teenager,
Well,
in my opinion. Her mental faculties are not as an adult.
right. I guess I'm going to agree with you guys because either she's an adult or a child, and she's a child.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have no other argument, she's
Right.
physically, chronologically a child. So
Mm-hmm.
it, you know, she's not 18 either. She's only
No,
15 now.
I think the reason the state has this statute is because of kids killing each other with, over,
Like gangs?
over drugs, over
Mm-hmm.
territory, um,
Right, right.
you know, the violent crimes with gangs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why they made that statute. I don't think it was meant for people like Carly, but because they made it general, it is. She
Right.
fell she fell into that hole.
Wow. I wish she would have taken the plea deal.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle killed 5 people, but was found guilty not guilty
Uh,
by insanity and got out of the hospital in 1995 after 15 years. He now has a job and lives a full life living in a group home. Wow.
that's good, Mike.
Wow. So you can identify with this case.
Mm-hmm. I know, Jackie. We don't make the best decisions when we're young.
No, it's true.
Now they're saying our brain has not reached full maturity till we're 26, 25 or 26.
Yep. And like I
So how
said,
can
whether
how
you
can you
agree with it
try
or
some
not, she is a child.
yeah, how can you try somebody that
Well,
doesn't have their full mental capacity till they're 25 or 26 at the
yep.
age of 14?
You know, and
It
now
doesn't
she's,
make sense.
but I think there's gonna be some sort of appeal.
Oh, I think she'll get a new trial.
I think there's gonna be, maybe not right away, but I think eventually she will.
And I think that statute that they passed in that state needs to be found unconstitutional.
Yeah, I don't know. You see, you shouldn't be making a law based on the kind of person you want to put in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we'll make this law for gang members, what,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always work out that way.
No.
It doesn't work out that way at all.
No. No.
Weird.
Look at poor Carly.
So
And I really don't think that law was meant for someone like her.
yeah, and I know. And here's the thing. She's gonna be in adult prison. She'll be separated from those adults,
No.
right?
No. Mm-mm.
No?
No. Only in jail. Whenever they transfer
All
her to
right,
prison,
so
she's going to be in general population.
wow. Because I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna say if she's separated from adults, she'll have no interaction with anybody. But
No, she'll have plenty of interaction
it's worse to have interaction with these people, the adult population, right?
in a prison.
In a prison, right?
Mm-hmm. They'll
Wow.
just teach her how to be worse.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Teach her all the things that they know.
Mm-hmm. So
Oh, wow, Metal Mike.
I know. Did you see what he wrote? He was only 16 when he committed the homicides in St. Paul. Wow. Yeah, she's gonna be with adults. The male brain doesn't mature until
27 or
27. I
28.
think that's true.
Mm-hmm. Women mature earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, she's going to be with adults. That's so
Wow.
sad. It's possible that they'll take advantage of her, but it's also possible that she'll end up in there with some moms that want to take care of her.
Right. She might get nurtured.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
She may get some mothers that maybe lost their kids. They never get to see their children.
Right.
They they may look at that as at her as an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to have a child again.
It could happen.
Mm-hmm. I hope and I pray that that's what happens.
Me too.
So as you can tell by us talking about Carly Gregg, we don't actually, I don't actually believe some of the mental health things that they're saying about her. Um, but does she have the beginnings of some of those mental health diseases? I think probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think
There
definitely
has to
she
be
got it.
something going on. She killed a mother.
Yeah,
There's got to be
she
something.
and she got a double whammy because it was reported her mom has bipolar disorder and her dad has schizophrenia. So it's in her DNA that she's probably going to have something.
We just might not know what yet.
I think it's too early to know exactly for sure what she's going to have, but I think it's coming. And I think that's,
What a shame that things couldn't have been like the situation couldn't have been averted in some way.
hmm
You know, it's so sad.
I think Carly probably felt very betrayed because her friends or friend was the one that went to mom and told mom that Carly was using marijuana.
That's
And
true.
so they went behind her back and told mom. Mom talked to the friends behind her
Oops, my
back.
thing is going dead.
So, I'm sure she did feel some betrayal. I don't know what else she felt besides betrayal, but she didn't seem angry to me.
She kind of almost didn't seem like she had any emotion to me.
Right, like she was dead inside.
You couldn't see any. Well, like I said, you never know. You got to
hmm
figure it out. But it looked like she didn't. She was very flat. Her affect was very flat. So how do you guys like doing the things like this? Because Nana Patty and I were talking about like doing, maybe another case like this and talking about it all together. Do you like the idea to do this again? Come on, come on, I'll hold you. He wants me to hold you.
I think Sarah Boone would be a good case to talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. Because like it's so fresh in everybody's mind. Want to do
hmm
that one next?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Anybody have any more questions or anything, or were you finished, Lisa?
Yeah, I think we pretty much digested this story pretty good, right?
hmm
How does everybody feel about it?
Did you see Mike's comment about the marijuana?
Yeah. Wow. I blame
I
the.
haven't heard of Tasks Unlimited either, Mike.
No, I read that. I'm sorry. I should have read it out loud.
Mike blames marijuana use for the partial reasoning to why I even have schizophrenia. My father smokes pot every day. I was an everyday smoker in my early teens as well up until the age of 22. Oh, good, Lucy. I'm glad you like it.
Oh, Nunu, what are you doing? Oh my God. This cat is crazy. You crazy cat.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you for
glad you
being here.
subscribed. Thank you. Come back
hmm
again.
Yes, please.
Yeah. We hope that maybe if you come back next time, maybe you'll give us some news on how you're doing.
I know, JC Ray, I can't handle little kids either.
I know, me too. I can't. It's too much.
Breaks my heart,
Yeah.
tears me up. I
Oops.
just can't do little
No,
kids.
no, did you hurt yourself? Oh my God, this cat.
What did he do?
He almost fell off the table because
No,
he's got to
no,
be on top of everything.
no,
He
no,
already
no,
broke his
no.
tail twice,
I know,
getting into
Wildcat.
mischief.
Well, I think I'm probably going to end the live.
Yeah,
Me,
but it was
let me get
fun.
my prayer list out
Yeah, do that.
and and don't leave right away, Lisa, because I was going to tell you something.
We'll give news. If I'm not around, just know I made it back to the hospital for a while. Okay. I hope for the best for you, Metal Mike.
Yes,
I really do.
definitely.
Thank you for coming. Put her on the prayer list.
Yeah, Mike, is it okay if I add you to the prayer list?
Sorry that Nuna keeps putting his butt in the camera.
It's okay.
He just likes that.
Is there
He's
anybody else I need to add to the
just
prayer
a
list?
baby.
It is, Lucy J. The love of our animals have for us is beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It makes your
They're all
everyday
babies.
happy.
They're my little babies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nunu. He's gonna bite my head soon. He loves to bite my head.
He has a cute fuzzy butt, Jackie said.
Thank you, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Give Nutmeg a kiss for me.
Yeah.
Give that little boy a kiss for me, okay? What are you doing? What are you sniffing my hand? Oh, he's so heavy too. But I can't not hold him when he wants to be held, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
Julian likes the rockabye baby hold. This one likes
Mm-hmm.
to be over the shoulder. I call him my over the shoulder boulder.
Yeah. Over
He's
the
so
shoulder
big.
boulder.
He's so big.
Mhm.
It
Okay,
hurts
I'm
my
gonna go
neck,
ahead.
but I can't turn him away.
Yeah,
He's too sweet.
I know, it's precious. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say the prayer now.
Okay, I'm ready.
Dear Heavenly Father, hope you're doing good today. I know you're busy because there are a lot of requests out there, and you're watching over all of us. And you know what's going on with us even before we tell you what's going on with us. You already know. But Jesus, I want to ask for special prayer for the following people: Davita's daughter-in-law, Daniela; Deb on the move; Cheryl Simone; Gigi Jardine and daughter Annie; my crazy life son Matthew; Robity Bob; Tracy; Anna and mom Shelby; Kathy from Texas and her family; Tracy's niece; Clarissa; Aurora and her mother; Beth; Lisa D and her family; Carol Clark, family and friend named Ron; Jackie's friend Julie; just a mom Mazio and her son Andrew; LMNW50's friend Dave; Destination New York's friend Judd; Crafty Peep; Metal Mike; Sherry; California for hope no more wildfires and that things can get under control there. Still praying for the firefighters, the rescue workers, the utility workers, everyone that's involved in the recovery efforts and getting things restarted in the states affected by the hurricanes. And pray for our world leaders and our leaders in this great nation that we call the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
We have a presidential election coming up, and I pray that Jesus, you help us to have the right outcome. We need the correct leader, someone who can lead our country and get us in better shape. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Nice job, Nana Patty. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Well,
thank
I'm going to end the live
everyone
now.
for coming. Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, wait, I forgot our
Yeah.
announcement. I forgot our announcement.
Oh my God, we forgot. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We have a winner. We have a name for our channel. Um, it's gonna be called Crafts, Crime, and Cookery with Nana P and Lisa D.
I hope you
And
like it. I hope you guys like it.
Yeah, let us know if you like it or if you don't like it. I haven't changed it officially yet, but that's what we're planning on. And all of it except one word came from Shannon M. So Shannon M, you win the prize.
Yay!
We'll have to figure out what your prize is going to be. You can let me know if you want diamond painting stuff um, or if you want a gift card, like an Amazon gift card. Just let me know. Come up with whatever you want. So crafts, crime, and cookery with Nana P and Lisa D. That's the
Hope you
plan.
like it.
But thanks everybody for being here. God bless you all. Take care.
Bye. Mwah.
Bye.